Hi, everybody. Today's special guest is Richie Jackson. Richie, how are you doing in Durham?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Fab. And look, I came all corporate today.
I was going to do the same, but I thought we might be matching.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I have two things which I think are core values. One is I love telling stories, and two, I love badge collecting. So how has lockdown been for you?
Yeah, it's been all right. I've been up in Durham the whole time, never left. Dad's 68, 69. He's pretty much insured and they're taking it very seriously. So he hasn't been leaving the house much. So if I was to go home, I wouldn't really have that freedom. And we've also been doing this Durham's Going Up fundraiser, trying to raise some money for the NHS and also for the Premier League fund for the boys next year, because it's going to cost the club and Team Durham so much money. So anything that the Leavers can do to help, it's going to be good. So we cycled 2,033 miles now, I think, of a 5,300 mile target. But it's been great. It's got us out of the house and we've loved every second of it.
Rich, I'm sure it's a bit early for me to say share and subscribe, but if we actually do put the link on, then hopefully we can get it around some of the old boys and hopefully they'll contribute a little bit as well. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Good. You guys have been doing a great job. And one thing I wanted to speak to you about today is about team and about culture and about leadership. But this month we've been talking a little bit about talent. And it's been really interesting because I've had some former professional football players on. I've got some academy coaches on and also some athletes as well. And trying to define the word is really interesting because everybody comes up with a completely different set of ingredients for what it looks like. So tell me your definition of talent. What is it?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't know. I was always taught by my PE teacher at school. I always remember a phrase that he came up with. It was hard work beats talent every time, unless the talent works hard. I think some people are born with a certain amount of talent, but then they have to obviously work hard to implement that in their sport. I think you can be naturally gifted in sport, so you can be good at a wide range of sports. Personally, for myself, I think I was born with a certain sporting ability, but enhanced by my upbringing, and I'd kind of always played hockey. I thought I was extremely talented before I came to university until I was then a small fish in a big pond. Because we play with some incredibly talented athletes in our hockey team.
You haven't been speaking to a particular goalkeeper that was on our team last year recently, have you?
Yeah, I may have been speaking to Ollie Payne a little bit.
Yeah, good, because I heard the phrase Ollie Payne is a talented goalkeeper when he first came, and we discussed talent with him the other day as well. And this small fish big fish in a small pond concept. Until you come to somewhere like Durham, or if you're a professional athlete, you could be going from, let's say, somewhere like Hartlepool United as a young kid to maybe Arsenal's academy or Man United's academy, and it's a big jump, isn't it?
It's a massive jump, and I'd come into Durham straight from a season in Australia from their Premier League, and wasn't really sure what to expect. But then you kind of come in as a fresher to a team with 4 years in, and you kind of go from thinking I'm going to really excel here to like kind of doubting yourself a little bit at times. That's how I felt in my first year. It got to a stage in the Bucks semi-final, Nottingham away. The pressure was so intense. It's obviously all the 4th year's last game for Durham and Bucks. And I remember sitting on the bench and I didn't want to go on the pitch. And I sat there, wasn't even really thinking about the game, was just kind of trying to hide on the bench. And, I think Gareth noticed it and kind of gave me less minutes.
Yeah, we've talked about pressure a lot over the 4 years, haven't we? In a variety of different other conversations we've had. I'm interested to know, in terms of, you said that you thought you were talented coming to Durham. What were your talents, Rich? And I don't mean that nastily, because I know how good you are and how much of a massive influence you've been on the team over the last 2 to 3 years, especially. But what perceived talents did you think you had?
Well, I guess there's obviously physical and psychological. We'll start psychologically. I've always been a leader, so before Durham, I've captained most of the teams that I've been a part of, from County to Windermere. And then obviously was in Australia, played a big part in that team, and then came to Durham. And because it's such like, well, it was then, it's such a hierarchy. So freshers are at the bottom, fourth years are at the top. You're just treated like a fresher. You don't really have a say much in the team. And so it kind of took a few years for my leadership qualities to come through. It was only really when I progressed to second year that I thought I could have a bit more of a say in the team, play a bit of a bigger part. And then third year was probably my moment where I thought, right, well, this is, I was in the leadership for the first time. This is where I can really excel. And that was kind of where I came into my own a little bit. And then physically wise with hockey, before university, I'd have always said my talent was 1v1 and taking players on. But now that I'm at university, I've kind of realised maybe back then I wasn't playing with such talented players. And so it was a bit easier for me to execute those skills. Whereas at university, you have to be so good with your hands that unless you're exceptional, you can't really get away with just running at players. It's more of a pass and go game. Unless you're obviously the likes of JT, who is crazy at the sport.
Yeah, you can use the phrase technical architect because we love that.
That would definitely describe him.
Yeah. It's really interesting you saying that, because having worked with a load of players and coaches over the 400 years that I've been alive, that you reminded me, by the way, of how old I was earlier, but thanks for that. One of the things I see a lot with perceived talented juniors is they tend to win quite quickly based on an attribute that they have, whether they're physically strong because they've matured earlier than others, or whether they do have some either good hands, technical ability, whatever it may be. They tend to win early on. Sometimes I think that stops them from growing a little bit, because all of a sudden you're this big fish in this small pond, a bit like what you were saying. You thought you had really good hands until you went to the next level. Any recommendations in terms of kids, not just in hockey, but all sports, in terms of not perceiving this big fish, small pond mentality that stops you from improving yourself?
Yeah, I guess that's tough because, like for me, I was at Windermere Hockey Club. We're a tiny village playing in maybe North Div 7. So probably 10, 11, 12 leagues below where Durham are. I was having to travel a few hours to play for Preston at a weekend because we had no hockey in our area. And so I trained quite hard. I was all right at the game. And so I was never really pushing myself. So I didn't know what it was like to push myself, if that makes sense. And so you just kind of automatically think, well, I don't really have to try that much here to be great.
Yeah.
It's only when you take that step up that you kind of realize, wow, I've got a lot of work to do on my own game.
Yeah. It's comfort levels, isn't it? We get in a comfort zone, in a comfort level, but we're not able to see the bigger funnel.
Yeah. And I think that was a big part of going to Australia, because, I'd always kind of wanted to travel. I wanted to play a higher standard of hockey. Whilst I absolutely loved being at Windermere, and it was an unbelievable upbringing, I really wanted to test myself a bit. And so going over there, I didn't have any expectations of playing in the Premier League. I just wanted to play to the highest that I could. And ended up playing for the Ones all season. Absolutely loved it and learned so much. But that was my real kind of first step outside the comfort zone. And then obviously Durham was an even bigger leap after that.
Okay. So what have you learned, Rich, as a hockey player over the last couple of years at Durham? How have your talents or your skills and abilities, how have they improved?
So if I'm really honest, I only came to Durham really hockey. My brother was here for the first year. So that persuaded me to come back from Australia. I was going to stay there for another year, but came back, and you kind of become like a professional athlete for the 4 years that you're here. So we were training maybe 2 or 3 times a week, playing twice a week, gymming, psychology sessions, recovery sessions. And aside from that, you're studying, but because we were training and playing so much and had so many sessions with top coaches, it was just bringing you on like rapidly. And then combine that with playing with international athletes in your own team. So I was playing with, like, obviously Turner, Rees, Waller. It was just an incredible learning experience. And I was fortunate enough to play with, obviously, all three of those for at least 2 years. And then the likes of, obviously, Payne and Turner for the last 2 years. So I've been fortunate to have 4 years experience learning off them, which for a boy from Windermere has just been incredible for my learning experience.
Yeah, no, and I think you've done a fab job, Rich. It's been a pleasure from our side working with you over the last 4 years as well. But in particularly for me, the last 2 years, I think you literally just gone from where we talk about levels within levels within levels. You literally just accelerated your learning as a person, as a hockey player, but also as a leader as well. So I think that's really important to talk about your leadership qualities. So you mentioned the fact that you've always been a leader. Do you have leadership talents?
Well, I guess it goes to your personality profiles. You know, I've always been a bit of an extrovert. I've always been quite outgoing from a very early age. I've always kind of voiced my opinion, which kind of led me into leadership because I was always wanting my voice to be heard. And so it's like, well, okay, if I want my voice to be heard, then maybe I should go for a position that's got a bit more responsibility. And so, like I said, from maybe under 11s for Cumbria, I was captain up until under 18s, vice captain of the Windermere men's first team. I was playing with blokes that were, 30, 40, 50 years old in that. And then obviously came to Durham, was in the leadership team. And yeah, I've just always loved being able to influence the team a little bit.
Yeah, and you certainly did that. And maybe we missed it, and maybe it was part of the culture that we had at the time. And I certainly think the culture at Durham's massively changed in the hockey club. And by the way, congratulations on winning Club of the Year.
Yeah, huge.
Another accolade to throw in there. But when we first came in, which was 6 years ago for me and Gareth, and you 4 years ago, it was heavily biased towards the whole senior and fresher thing. I think you've helped change that a little bit, Rich.
Yeah, so I think obviously I was a fresher 4 years ago. I knew what it was like to be in a team that, it was an exceptional team. It was the year we won 18 from 18 in the National League. I mean, there is no doubt in that team was incredible. But we relied on, so it's on the pitch to dig us out of situations. Like there's numerous times where Roy Patterson or Charlie Stubbings would score an unbelievable goal and we'd win the game. But our culture off the pitch necessarily wasn't great. And so going into second year and third year, we kind of knew that for us to succeed, we need to bridge this hierarchy in the team. And so, whilst it's great, socials, etc., have a bit of fun with the freshers, but make them feel comfortable. We tried, particularly in third year, when I think it's second year, third year, we just won Bucks in second year, coming off a Bucks championship for the first time in 27 years, I think it was. We lost 11 or 12 players. So we knew next year the freshers were going to be massive for us in a season that a lot of other teams were calling a transition period for Durham. And so we kind of got together as a leadership group and like, well, the freshers are going to be huge next year. Let's really make sure they feel comfortable from day one. We had conversations about how to treat them on the pitch, and just really try to integrate them. And so the first day we met them in pre-season, it was really focused on making them feel comfortable. And that kind of worked to our benefit, really, because I'd say a lot of the freshers really express themselves.
Absolutely. And we've had some fantastic performances from some freshers as well. And whatever we do from our side, in terms of building culture and understanding profiles of players and understanding your pressures and your emotional intelligence, the one thing we always need is somebody who links between the two. And I think that's where you played such a great role. And I can remember the little walk along the river that we had around coaching staff and around about the communication between the two and how do we get that right. And that's something that we didn't have prior to you actually taking on that responsibility.
Yeah.
What made you, and I know it is a great leadership trait, what made you think at that moment in time, right, I need to go and see Graham, I need to have this conversation, we just need to be shifting the direction of travel for us as a team?
So I think we had that conversation in pre-season, maybe August or September. We went for that walk. So it was for my first year and second year. We'd had Ali Addison coaching us with Gareth as like a kind of head coach role, more with the women, but would still be at our training sessions. But for a game, would be on the other side. And we'd always worked unbelievably with Ali. We absolutely loved him as a coach. Gareth, I think he won't mind me saying at this time, we didn't have the best relationship with the men's ones and Gaz. And then we won the Bucks Championship with Ali. Ali then obviously has moved to Ipswich since and become head of hockey there. And I kind of realised there was a bit of talk within the boys before pre-season that we're a bit nervous about this season with Gareth, our head coach again. And obviously we're only out of university for 4 years. I didn't want to waste a season. And so I kind of knew that for us to get the best out of this season and it not be a transition season, we really needed to build that with Gaz.
Yeah.
And that is what I spoke to you about. And I think looking back, it was a massive success for us.
Oh, absolutely. It was. And if you speak to Gaz as well, and Gaz hopefully won't mind me telling the story as well, because we've had the conversation openly. He thought it was going to be a difficult year. You guys thought it was going to be a difficult year. And somehow we managed to really define a culture from our point of view in terms of coaches and support staff, and you guys in terms of players, something that just worked phenomenally. And Gaz will turn around and say it was one of the best seasons he's ever had.
Yeah. And we would agree with that. I think it's probably the most enjoyable season I had, even though we didn't have a trophy to show for it. Getting to a Bucks final in a year that teams were writing us off through kind of our team spirit, really. I wouldn't say we had an exceptional team, but I'd say the spirit we had in that team of, we were never beaten. And that carried us through, and we kind of just built momentum the whole way.
Yeah, maybe if we reframe that, instead of having an exceptional team, because when we talk about exceptional teams, maybe we talk about the technical architects like the JT. Maybe you just had a team that did exceptional things.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. And how we worked with the coaches was a massive part of that.
Yeah, no, it was a fun team to be around, and you guys did do exceptional things. And I think we should just pretend that we won that trophy anyway, because you did.
Yeah, we did win that in the last second of the game, but it's still a tender subject, Graham.
Yeah, but when we think about it, that's the really strange thing, but the dead exciting thing about sport is that there's certain things that we can't control. And I think that from a cultural point of view, from a leadership point of view, from an on-pitch point of view, you guys controlled everything that year that you could do. You maximized your efforts, you maximized your abilities, the time on the pitch, the time in the gym. You guys excelled in what you did that allowed you the opportunity to give yourself that chance of winning a trophy. Now, in sport, unfortunately, referees' decisions, weather conditions, COVID-19, we can't control any of that, Rich. So you guys did what you could do, and that's what you need to reflect on at some stage. Looking back in your career when you're my age, then you can kind of go, yeah, that was a great season. We did far. Yeah, we didn't win the trophy, but we couldn't do anything else.
Yeah, no, we gave it our all in that season.
Yeah, you did well. So in terms of looking at your leadership skills with that, what do you think has been pivotal with building the culture of the men's team in hockey? And I'm not saying it was bad when I arrived and Gaz arrived 6 years ago. It wasn't. You still had some great players, and the team camaraderie was still good, but it's excelled. Why?
So I kind of I knew. So going from second year to third year, I ran for captain. I think there was 4 of us that ran for it. JT was the captain at the time, and I didn't get the captaincy, which is fine, but I kind of knew that I wanted to play a pivotal role in the team. And being like best friends with JT, I kind of also knew that the season before, he hadn't been great with his admin. And I kind of recognised there is a bit of a miscommunication here between the coaches and the playing staff. And if we can bridge that communication, a lot of the other aspects will take care of themselves. And so I said to Jack, I was like, look, I can do your off pitch for you. You concentrate on your on pitch leadership and how you play, because he's an exceptional player. If he is playing to the best of his ability, it's going to help the team massively. Yeah. And I was just quite organised off the pitch. And kind of through that, it all just kick-started the relationship we had with Gaz, which then meant we got more out of him as a coach, which meant we got more out of each other as a team. And so I actually pinpoint that as a very small change that kind of kick-started our journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, which is really weird, because if you go back to 4 years ago, I can remember having a conversation with you lot in terms of saying, do you know, if you guys just turned up on time, prepared, ready to play, actually the whole session would be completely different. And it's the small things, isn't it?
Yeah, and Gaz realised that we were working to make a change. And yeah, it kind of just went from there. It's probably not the only aspect, but I'd say that is the main key change that we implemented to really be successful that season.
Yeah, there's probably two or three things, Rich. One, I think, is a little bit of selflessness from yourself, but also Ollie Payne did it as well in terms of having co-captains, which didn't really work, and stepping aside for the great of the team. And I think that's where great leadership comes from, that ability to see everything else and to make some personal sacrifices. So well done to you on that one. Two, I think communication is so vital within teams, and we don't spend enough time working on it. We make the assumption that you can stick 20 people together with different personality traits and sit back and everything to run smoothly, and it can't. And sometimes when we work on it, then we can do that. That will help a little bit. But sometimes when somebody inside the camp takes that role, just smooths it out a little bit, then all of a sudden it just supports things. And I think the third thing for me, in terms of looking at you, is that drive that you have for the team to be successful.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to do everything I could within my control to give us the best chance of success. And, you know, there was no reason why we couldn't turn up to training 5 minutes before. I remember changing the meet time from, okay, we'll meet at 1:45 to warm up, to 22 to warm up, because I knew if I set it to 1:45, the boys would still be a few minutes late because they were aiming for 1:45.
Yeah.
And so we changed it to 22 with the aim of starting up, and I'd make sure that we'd start the warm dead on 45, and anyone after that was late. And they kind of just took that in their stride, and everyone started turning up on time. The boys then raised their standards a bit and would call out other people for not turning up on time. And that just really aided our success in everyone expected high standards of each other.
Okay, I've got two more questions for you. Conscious of time as always with these things. I've been telling people about 10, 15-minute conversations, and we end up being like 45 minutes in. The first one is, whoever's going to come to Durham this year, it's going to be another phenomenal year within the hockey club. We've just finished another successful season. We've had some great players, but there's going to be some new freshmen coming in. It's a great opportunity for them. What advice would you give them in terms of fitting into the culture, defining themselves within the culture, but also excelling the hockey club to go to another level? Because that's what we need to do every year.
Yeah, I think the first thing coming in as a fresher, you're coming into a new team with a lot of new lads. Some of the lads, for example, me and Els, will be in there for 5 years next year. It's very easy to feel out of your comfort zone, and you naturally will for the first, few months. But it's just really trying to put your own mark on the team. We want freshers to take responsibility. They're obviously still, university experience is brand new to them. They're living away from home for the first time. Probably they haven't trained 3 or 4 times a week. Pre-season, we're training every day nearly. It's a massive shift for them, but just really trying to make themselves feel at home at Durham. And that obviously comes from our part as well, because we're trying to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But what we've been trying to work on is getting rid of the year where they're always better in their second year. There is no reason that they should be better in their second year. They can excel in their first year.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's just creating an atmosphere that they can feel comfortable enough that they can voice their opinion in the team and excel in the team in their first year.
Yeah, and the conversation I had with Ollie is don't be shy to have a conversation. So whether it's with Gaz or any of the coaching staff, whether it's formally coming to see me and having the chat, or just picking one of the senior players and going for coffee and going for a walk and having that chat. I still think within the men's game, especially at university level, we're a little bit shy in terms of our feelings a little bit. And it's not a pink and fluffy thing. It's a massive opportunity to accelerate your learning and growing to fit into the culture, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is huge. And Gaz and Jamie are also, and yourself are also great with that. Play a massive part in making the freshers feel comfortable. I know that you have your one-to-one meetings with them, and like I remember this year, Jamie would sit down with each fresher and go through where he thinks they need to improve, have chats with them, where they're doing well, and that just makes them feel so much more comfortable, I think.
Yeah, the more we can make them feel comfortable and relieve some of the pressure and anxiety and stresses, then hopefully the better they're going to perform. And why would you not want to do that?
Yeah, and we also have a welfare officer in our team. So this year it was Holmesy, and he would meet with them all, just for them all at our house, bring them all around, and that kind of also helped them settle in a bit. And so it kind of all culminates to make them a better player overall and a better person really as well.
Rich, thank you very much for your time. And my final question has to be around the fact that Durham University, Premier League.
I don't think it's sunk in yet. I honestly think about it nearly every day that we're going to be in the top flight next season. Really, really exciting times. And yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a really exciting season at MC.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the guys coming back and for the coaching staff as well. It's been for us a 6-year project in terms of trying to move you guys little bits every year. And, you know, it's really difficult because we have players come in and players go out. We've had some phenomenal technical architects, but we've also had some phenomenal cultural architects like yourself as well. So, Rich, thank you very much. Good luck in the Premier League. I'm sure Durham will do really well. I will make sure that we put the link on for, if you can send me that, for any of the old boys that want to, you know, just to contribute a little bit to help out in terms of subsidizing you guys. But thank you very much. Everybody else, please share, please subscribe. Richie Jackson, you need to get at least over 150 watches to beat Ollie Payne.
I'll try my best.
Bob, you take care. Have a great time, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers, Graham.
Cheers, Rich.